Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you. You're watching Encounter. Today we have a very special guest. We have Sister Judy Johnson from the Brahma Kumari. She came all the way from Halifax, Canada. Sister Judy, very warm welcome to you and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Roshan. It's great to be here.
We should also remind our viewers that this is not the first time that Sister Judy is on this program. She participated also in the original series, which was known as In Search of the Self, and during the transition for Encounter. So thank you for coming again.
Oh, so this is the second
This is the spin-off.
birth.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
In the previous program, we spoke about how to meditate. We also spoke about the blueprint memory, and the episode is available on YouTube. Sister Judy, tell us why you've come to Mauritius again.
Maybe just to have this conversation with you. Sister Gayatri from the Koirati Center invited me to come, I think because she was looking for activating, you know, the third eye, the intellect, activating the inner worlds of people. And she knows that's my business. That's kind of what I do through experiential education and learning. So I have been here for 2.5 weeks. It feels like coming home to an old friend. I've been telling people when I meet them that the minute I got on Air Mauritius in London, the vibe was there, and the vibe was kindness. And I settled into my seat in the airplane. I thought, oh, yeah, that's Mauritius, kindness. So I know there may probably other things, but that was a feeling. So I've been here for 2.5 weeks doing different public talks with groups. I leave tonight, on my way back. So this is our last day. It's nice to end the visit with you.
Can you share with us what are the talks you've been having in Mauritius?
Yeah. A lot about resilience, some of it emotional resilience, and some of it is just thriving in chaos, you know, how to build your resilience. Leading from the heart, which is not about emotions, but leading from something deeper than your emotions. I'm trying to think of the others. There's been a lot of them. We had a beautiful silence retreat, so I'm going to ask you about that because you were there for the weekend.
It was a wonderful silence retreat. So it was my second time doing the retreat. I've done a previous course called the Vipassana for 10 days, where you completely disconnected from everything, no technology, no contact with anyone in the family, and it's just a withdrawal from everything and focusing on the self. So this time I felt that I do not have to go through the 10 days again. Not that it's a problem, I can easily do it again. But I did not have to go to that extreme because I've already experienced it. So the weekend retreat at the Diamond Center in Palma was a good way for myself to reevaluate, I would say, the goals and objectives I had set myself. And it worked out beautifully. I had set out 3 objectives from 1 year ago. I managed to work on 2 out of the 3, and the third one I'm still working on it. And I look forward to it because now I have a better clarity of mind of what I have to look forward to.
Can I ask you how you used the silence for 2 days?
Oh, it's a lot of how you introspect yourself. Many people ask me what I do during a silence retreat. So I tell them, your health depends a lot on your mental health, and you have many thoughts. 90% of the diseases that we have is caused by stress, and stress is mainly caused by our
Thinking.
the way of we think.
Yeah.
So we should be able to silence that chatterbox, but it's not just a switch that you put it off. So you have to observe what are the thoughts you're having, because the thoughts that you're having are the ones that are disturbing you the most. You cannot fight them, so you have to acknowledge them. So in this sense, I was able to break down my thoughts into 3 categories, which were the 3 objectives that I've been working on. And I managed to work on 2 of them. And I'm still working on the 3rd one.
Okay.
So I think it's good progress for 1 year.
I think it's very good progress for 1 year. And even just to be in a process with yourself of keeping track of yourself is very elevated, actually. Not everybody sets a goal and then actually follows through to check the self again. So it's a very high level of personal accountability. Congratulations.
And now that I've working on the last one, I thought that I might add another one. I had a conversation with Sister Gayatri, and she's like, okay, what is next for you? I said, I want to be able to practice my daily sadhanas, like have a routine. I don't have that at all.
Oh.
So I want to be able to practice meditation, breathing techniques, yoga on a daily basis for at least 1 hour, 1.5 hours. But it's hard nowadays, but it's not impossible. The key to it is to sleep early and wake up early so that when you do it as from early morning, you still have your full day ahead. But that's also a work in progress.
Yeah.
But, so I have to thank you for being one of the facilitators for the Silence Retreat, and it was amazing. And I will definitely do it again. Well, if I have the opportunity to do it again. It's amazing.
Something that was unique about this silence retreat is that we decided to spend the entire time in silence rather than punctuating with classes where people speak. And I found that, I mean, these are public. These are people that are connected in some way to the Brahma Kumaris, but not, you know, regular meditators. And somehow they had no trouble getting into silence and staying there. It wasn't like a punishment, like I'm trying not to speak. It was more like it was so engaging to be in silence that it became this very powerful container. I could almost at one point feel the walls sort of throbbing. I mean, we were all thinking about things. We were given intentionally little exercises to do, you know, and people took their time away from it and with it, but I felt like it really gave them something valuable. It gave them a precious, precious energy.
That I will add on to what you just said. It was not only thinking about why do you have to be silent. The reason for being silent was empowered by the various activities that were there and carrying out the activities in silence. One of the things that I observed is when I was silent for 1.5 days and going for the run on Sunday morning by the beachside, I felt so much power and energy. I never felt this powerful, and I'm like, does silence really do this? And yes, it does, because you're containing your energy, you keep your energy, and then you focus your energy onto the things that you're doing. So if I was running, I was only running. If I was drawing, I was only drawing. Of course, your mind wanders. But the focus, when you have an empowered focus, it's a totally different story.
It is, actually. I noticed with the meals,
Yeah.
it took us about 15 minutes to eat. You know, I clocked it. I thought,
Really?
how is it possible that 60 people in a dining hall can eat at a very leisurely pace? I found myself eating at a very leisurely, slow pace, and yet they're all up, dishes washed and out the door in 15 minutes. How is that possible? Because it didn't feel fast. So it made me realize how efficient silence is.
There was no waste.
There was no waste. But I noticed once people were given the permission to not talk, to not look at each other, to not have to interact, they were suddenly free just to be with themselves. But comfortably so. I never felt uncomfortable around the other people, even though they were sitting close, or we were moving, or we were eating at a table, you know, across from each other. I never felt uncomfortable. Did you?
It was non-judgmental.
It was very non-judgmental.
And it was very comfortable, because our mind tends to judge everything that we see.
But mine didn't during
No,
the silence
no,
retreat.
no.
Why is that? Why is it that silence, I'm sitting at a table eating with people, I didn't even have the thought to comment in my mind on them?
No, it didn't happen.
Because I pulled so far away from what surface things agitate the mind that I was into my own stillness inside.
I was focusing on what I was doing. So I said I would focus on eating, and I would do only that.
Right.
So I did not even have time to
Think about the
think
other
about
people.
other things.
So there's a lesson for living,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes,
We just focus
yes.
on what
So
we do.
If you do it to the best of you can, even when you eat, even when you drink, even when you walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I enjoyed about the silence retreat, in addition to that, was so kind of what you're describing is being mindful.
Yes,
You know,
it
like
is.
I'm completely focused on eating, that's what I'm doing. Now, mindful practice, I think what the weekend did is it gave us this mindful practice without telling us that's what it was doing. But behind the mindful awareness of the now and what I'm doing was this incredibly powerful soul experience. It's like I'm the one in the present moment eating. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just focus on eating.
No.
It was, there's this silence inside that is aware of eating.
Yes.
And that was the place that I spent most of my time.
At some point, I thought about what Sister Gayatri had told me, is that meditation does not have to be closed eyes. You can also have an open eye meditation. So when you do the silence retreat and being mindful of everything you do, this is a meditation.
It is.
So it's on many levels that you're very conscious of everything you do, and this mindfulness is meditation. You mentioned earlier that you have been having talks about resilience. What type of resilience? You mentioned emotional, but there's a step in between resilience and the emotional part, right? What is the middle step?
I'm going to say silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
So you need to access silence to reach the emotion, the mental well-being.
So resilience is a whole movement now in the world, and I think it's relatively new to Mauritius, but it's probably about 20 years. Canada's only taken it up in the last 5 or 10 in a big way. And technically it just means bouncing back. You know, you're resilient. You're, as Sister Gayatri says, you're elastic. You can kind of stretch and mold and shape with life difficulties, you know. So that's resilient. And then there's this emotional intelligence thinking these days about how to be intelligent about your emotions. And what some people would say, EQ. Some people would say you're least intelligent when you're emotional. So to become intelligent about your emotions, it's sort of like how to manage your emotions. So I might learn how to do, I might be really knowledgeable, I might be really smart, I might have a lot of technical skills and know-how, but if I can't manage my emotions, then I'm often blowing up and I'm sort of wrecking what I'm trying to create in the world, because the emotions break the relationships or they make it more difficult for me, you know?
Is it one of the reasons why people say do not make promises when you're either very happy or very angry?
Like that.
So you have to
Like that.
keep in check and keep your emotions in balance?
Yeah, and most of us go through an up and down roller coaster throughout the day. One minute I'm happy, the next minute I'm sad. So all day long I'm going through this, and it's always in response to an external stimulus. So somebody says something, oh, down I go. It's Friday, payday, up I go.
Yes.
Friends are coming, up I go. Oh, I get a call about a problem, down I go. So all day long I'm going like this. It's exhausting. And when you talked about stress on the body and the illness caused by stress, a lot of it is this emotional roller coaster, because every time I'm up, my body, inside the cortisone and the, you know, the adrenalines and the heart, everything's going, heart's going, you know, everything. And then when I'm down, same thing. So I'm in a constant fight or flight mode. I'm in constant, you know, inner reactive mode. So the resilience about bouncing back and the emotional intelligence is really about how do I bounce back? How do I remain elastic in the face of my own emotional roller coaster?
Do you remain in a straight line?
Well, this is the thing. People don't like to think of flatlining your emotions because they think that's like dying. Yeah, they think, well, then I'm dead. If I'm not having any emotions, what's the point of living?
Well, it's not a flat line, it's an upward line.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I've found since meditating that I'm at a higher level of happiness. And it's quite a wide bandwidth. It's not like a peak and then down. It's sort of like this, you know? It's pretty high level and it's a wide bandwidth. But it's more stable, so it's less affected by the downs and the stimulus coming from outside.
You mentioned that people have highs and lows, and it's like a curve which goes up and down. So probably when there's a good news, it goes up, and when there's something less happy, it goes down. But at the end of the day, we have to go through both of them. I have to ask you, is there a way that we can find pleasure in doing the things that we like less, so that we can maintain it, we can stay more true to containing our emotions?
Yes. I don't think we can contain our emotions, but we can redirect that emotional energy. Some people try and suppress, and then it blows up when least expected, right? If I repress my emotions, I get sick. If I express it, then I reinforce the habit, right? And the neural networks are getting fired together.
Yes.
So I don't want to do any of those things. So I have to do something else. What am I going to do? So for us, the BK approach, the Raj Yoga approach, is instead of defining my happiness by what I'm doing, my happiness is completely independent of what I'm doing. So whether I'm washing toilets at the center or I'm giving a lecture, I can be happy. Why? Because I am inherently happy. Like my innate core energy is happy. It's like a little bubble of happiness, like an underground river running through me at all times. And unfortunately, the noise of the world, you know, makes me lose touch with that underground river. The minute I come back to that underground river, I'm sort of bubbling with happiness.
For you to be able to find happiness in all the activities that you're doing.
But that's the key. I'm not finding happiness in the activity. I'm finding happiness in me. And then I go do the activity.
So your happiness does not depend on something or someone.
Well, mine
or an
does
activity.
still a little bit, but that's the path. Yeah, I'm separating the happiness. The source of happiness is not from anything outside of me.
It's within.
It's internal.
So is happiness an attitude?
Happiness is an energy of the soul that influences the attitude. The attitude is the most visible part of the soul. You feel my vibrational frequency through my attitude. So that's kind of like our calling card when we meet each other. The attitude says, this is my vibe, right? And if it's a bad attitude, you don't want to hang out with someone. If it's a good attitude, you feel nice with them, right? But all of that is generated from the awareness of who I am, the awareness of my focal point, my source point. What is that? Is it my own internal energy? And then, of course, the divine is just going to amplify that energy that's in me. Or is it dependent on the external?
It's easier said than done. How can you be internally happy without depending on external factors?
Well, that's why it's a practice, meditation. We have to practice. I think if, and I know you've had this experience, when you're actually connected internally, the feeling is so lovely. It's so lovely, right? That's what silence gave us that weekend.
It's an experience of bliss.
It's such a lovely, blissful experience internally. And when you're there, if you've ever felt it, then you know it's there and you can go back. Now, it's not always easy to get back quickly when a crisis is happening.
No.
But that's why the daily practice of meditation builds that inner, it's like a muscle, right? If I lift a weight once and then I go home from the gym and think I'm going to be a muscle, it's not going to happen. So it's like that with the mind. I have to continually pull myself back in, pull myself back in. And that's why I meditate. So I sit for what? How long in the morning? 45 minutes? 4 in the morning, every day, have done every day for 21 years, will continue to do until I die. And even if in those 45 minutes, 10 of it is concentrated, and I've spent the rest of it wandering in my mind, doing whatever, I've pulled it back how many times?
Yeah.
And it's the pulling back that builds the muscle.
And the more you keep pulling back, the more you're able to stay in it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you sit
Yeah.
down and meditate, your mind wanders after 30, 40 seconds.
It's okay.
It's how many people say nowadays is how you react to situations. Even this meditation is how you react. So the essence of it is to pull back your thoughts towards yourself.
Yeah. I sort of think of it like a big net. You know those fishermen that throw that big net out in the river?
Yes.
And it's like I put a big net out for all my thought energy, thought and feeling energy, and I bring it back into this tiny point. And it's really concentrated then and really powerful.
So is there a place, how do you call it? A third eye? Is that a chakra? Is it a... How do you... It's a third eye.
Third
you
eye.
bring the focus to the third eye, which is in between the eyebrows.
Behind the eyes, front of the brain. So it's deep inside.
So it's behind the eyes,
Behind.
in front of the brain.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what do you think of it as a ball of energy?
I visualize it as a little tiny point of light, like the spark of life that animates this body.
Sister Judy, we'll go back to the resilience part, why you've come to Mauritius. You mentioned it's pretty new to Canada. Why is why has resilience become so important now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think world events are pushing people over, knocking them down. I think people are settling a lot of, karmic consequences, we might say.
Yeah.
People are settling a lot of things in their personal lives through health issues, relationship issues, loss of work, economic strife and worry. People are very anxious these days. And so we have to look somewhere else for a source of energy to keep us standing and strong. And that has to be inside. Resilience is sort of morphing now into thriving. So instead of just surviving, I'd like to thrive.
Be good at what you do.
Be good inside no matter what happens. Be good inside no matter what happens. Like a flower, just blossom, even in a storm.
And you think that this will address many problems like stress in the world, or the way people think and how they react to one another, or even their approach to life?
Yeah, I do think so. I think if we tap into the inner energy of the self, the soul, that it's a lovely energy that we bring to our relationships, we bring to our work, and it makes it more peaceful and harmonious and more lovely.
Well, what is your personal experience or take on resilience? Because you probably practiced it for some time so that you're
Yeah.
able to talk and teach it.
Yeah, that's true actually. Just a life full of changes, I guess, and the changes don't seem to affect me so much. Kids leave home, empty nest, single mom, you're on your own. Who are you? Many women, many mothers have an identity crisis. I'm nobody. Where's the kids? And they kind of start reaching out to get them back. So that was an easy transition for me, and I would say that's because of the meditation. Fluctuating in terms of, I give a lot of my time to service internationally, and so that means I'm less available, or have been, in the consulting world. So economically, that means by putting my attention here, there's less there,
Yep.
which is a conscious choice on my part. But that also means that if others, some of the situations I've faced in terms of the economics would make many people very, very terrified. And I've had my moment of panic, but I've also had mostly faith.
Why terrified? Why your moment of panic?
Because a lot of people's insecurity, including mine, has been, security is in your bank account. How much money have you got there? If you have a little mountain, even a little tiny mountain, you feel secure.
Yeah.
So when it drains and there's nothing there, on what basis is your security? On what basis do you feel secure?
How will you survive?
Exactly.
Is that an issue for you?
It isn't, because karmically, whenever you're giving, something always comes back. So every time I'm doing service somewhere in the world, lo and behold, somebody calls and said, we'd like you to do this work. Can you do this work for us? And then I go back and I do the work.
That's inspiring.
It's lovely. It's lovely. If I worried about the work, then I might not do the service. But instead I do the service, and then the work comes.
So when you're doing the service, you become very good at the work you're doing as a service.
In a way, like all the resilience, service here in Mauritius will benefit professional contracts in Canada. So you become like a really integrated person. I used to think of them as separate. Now it's just my life. And my life is this and it's that. It's both together very nicely.
Are you okay with that?
I am. I feel really good about it.
Let's say that your children were younger, were smaller. Would you still have been comfortable with this?
When they were younger and smaller, I gave the time to them.
Of course.
Instead of the work.
It's a personal question.
Yeah. And so they had a very rich upbringing with very little, but full of values. So at Christmas they'd get 20 gifts, but they were this small. So they always felt there was such abundance, right? So they grew up feeling they were rich, but they were raised on very little, right?
Yes.
Mothers can do this. All over the world, mothers do this.
You mentioned earlier about the resilience, about mothers often losing their identity. Am I a mother? Am I a sister? Am I a daughter? Am I a wife? So many women, I don't mean to say that in a disrespectful way, many women feel that they are more reactive to their lives rather than being proactive. Is that what you're trying to teach through the resilience talks? to take charge of your life.
Yeah, I think to take charge of your inner energy so you can stand no matter what's coming at you from life. Man or woman, things are always coming at us in the world, from our jobs, from our families, from our own health issues, from the financial, everything. So I think it's about, are you able to access a source of energy that makes you feel like you're okay?
And
You'll
it
be
does?
okay. It does. And the resilience studies indicate, I mean, aside from having a good social network, having a good health, like physical workout and take care of your body and eat well and sleep well and have a faith, people who have faith, a tradition of some sort, tend to be more resilient, generally speaking. So in the resilience literature, they would identify all these things, but the one thing that I've been doing on this service trip is highlighting the mind aspects, the things we do with our mind that actually meditators know a lot about. So that's where the two worlds come together nicely for me, the professional study of resilience and the personal practice of meditation. Because what we do with our minds to be able to see the positive, to be able to reframe things, to be able to come out of an energy field and back into your own so you can come back again, all of that is of the mind.